All right, buckle up, everyone, because today we're diving headfirst into the EU's AI Act.
Ooh, sounds intense.
It is. It really is. This is a big one. We're talking the world's first comprehensive law on artificial intelligence.
Yeah, it's a groundbreaking piece of legislation for sure.
Absolutely. And this isn't just for the techies out there, you know?
No, I
This
don't
is
know.
going to impact all of us. It's basically shaping how AI is developed and used. So that means, well, everything.
Right. Think about it. AI is already everywhere. It's in healthcare. It's in your social media feed.
It's kind of freaky when you start to really think about it.
It is. But that's why this law is so important. It aims to, steer AI in the right direction, make sure it's used ethically.
Exactly. We need some guardrails here.
We do.
So that's what we're going to unpack today. And we're doing it with a pretty special document.
Straight from the European Parliament.
You got it, the source itself. So we're going deep, deep into the nitty gritty of this AI Act. And let me tell you, it's a wild ride.
Yeah, we're talking AI that could be used to manipulate your behavior or, those systems that judge you based on your social status, like a Black Mirror episode.
Oh, I know exactly what you mean. Totally creepy. And we can't forget about deepfakes.
Oh, yeah, those are getting so real. It's scary.
Seriously, blurring the lines of reality. But don't worry, we're going to break it all down, make it clear, make it understandable.
That's the plan. I mean, the heart of the AI Act, it's really about ensuring AI is developed and used responsibly and ethically. It's not about stopping progress. It's about doing it the right way.
Right, right. And they've come up with this really interesting way to do that.
It's a risk-based classification system. So basically, it's like safety ratings for different types of AI.
Oh, I like that. Makes it easy to understand. Sort of like, how we have safety ratings for cars or appliances.
Yeah, exactly like that. They're looking at the potential risks of different AI applications and then, putting them into categories based on how dangerous they could be.
And some of these risks are so serious that the EU has decided, nope, we're not doing that. They've completely banned certain AI applications.
Yeah, there are some things that are just too risky. Those are what they call unacceptable risk.
Unacceptable. That sounds, well, unacceptable.
It is they're drawing a line in the sand here. For example, imagine a voice-activated toy, right?
Like one of those cute little robots.
Yeah, but this toy could be subtly encouraging your child to do something dangerous.
That's horrifying.
It is, and that's exactly why they've banned AI systems that could manipulate behavior, especially when it comes to vulnerable groups like children.
Okay, that makes sense. You don't want AI messing with kids' minds.
Right, and it's not just about children, it's about protecting everyone from AI manipulation.
Now, speaking of creepy AI, remember that Black Mirror episode,
Oh
Nosedive?
yeah, the one where everyone's judged by their social score.
That's the one.
That was disturbing.
Super disturbing. And the thing is, that's not entirely science fiction anymore. It's kind of happening in some places.
Yeah, like in China, they have this social credit system where they use technology to track and evaluate citizens' behavior.
Like Big Brother is watching you.
Exactly. And people are assigned scores that can actually affect their lives, like whether they can get a loan or even travel.
Oh, wow. That's pretty intense.
It is, and that's where the EU is saying, nope, we're not going there. The AI Act says no to social scoring systems, period.
No AI judging us based on our behavior or social status. Good.
Good, right. It's about protecting fundamental freedoms,
Huh.
and ensuring that everyone is treated fairly, regardless of what some algorithm thinks of them.
I'm with you on that one. And speaking of protecting people, what about facial recognition?
Another big one. So the AI Act, it puts some serious limits on the use of real-time biometric identification, like facial recognition, especially in public spaces.
So basically, no more walking down the street and having your face scanned by cameras everywhere you go.
Not if the EU has anything to say about it.
Hmm.
They're really concerned about privacy and the potential for misuse of this kind of technology.
Yeah, I can see why. But what about situations where, like, law enforcement needs to use facial recognition, to catch criminals?
That's a good question. The AI Act does recognize that there might be some very specific exceptions, in serious criminal investigations.
So it's not a total ban.
Right. But any use of these technologies in those situations would be subject to really strict oversight and judicial approval. It's about striking a balance, between security and fundamental rights.
Yeah, you don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater.
Exactly. The key is responsible and ethical use with clear accountability.
Okay, so they're being cautious but not completely shutting down these technologies. Makes sense.
Makes sense. Now let's talk about the AI systems that aren't outright banned, but are still considered pretty risky.
Okay, so not the unacceptable risk ones, but still something we need to watch carefully.
Right, we're talking about high-risk AI here. Think about AI being used in, like, medical diagnoses or self-driving cars or managing critical infrastructure like power grids.
Yeah, those are high stakes. If something goes wrong there, the consequences could be huge.
Exactly. So with these high-risk systems, the focus is really on ensuring safety and protecting those fundamental rights we were talking about.
So how does the Act actually address these high-risk systems? What are they doing to make sure things don't go sideways?
Well, it's all about assessment and monitoring.
Hmm.
So before a high-risk AI system can even be put on the market, before anyone can use it.
Like before it goes live.
Right. It has to go through these really rigorous assessments. They're making sure that it meets very strict safety and ethical standards.
So it's not just like, hey, we made an AI, let's set it loose on the world. There's a whole process to check it out first.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And the monitoring, it doesn't stop there. It continues throughout the entire life cycle of the system.
Oh, wow. So it's not just a one-time check. It's constantly being monitored.
That's the idea. And to add another layer of protection, the Act actually empowers individuals to report any concerns they have about these systems.
So if I'm using, say, an AI-powered medical device and something seems off, I can report that.
Exactly. It's about creating a culture of shared responsibility. We're all in this together.
That's good. It's good to know there are systems in place to catch problems early on. Now let's switch gears for a moment and talk about something that's been all over the news lately. Generative AI.
Ah, yes.
Yeah.
The AI that can write essays and poems and even code.
I'm looking at you, ChatGPT.
Right. It's pretty mind-blowing what this technology can do.
It is, but is this stuff considered high risk? I mean, it seems pretty harmless, right?
Well, that's a great question, and it's something the EU has been grappling with as well. They don't see generative AI as inherently high risk. But it does raise some important issues, particularly around transparency and accountability.
So what are they doing about that?
Well, for starters, they're introducing some specific regulations to address those concerns. And the key word here is transparency.
Okay, so more transparency. I like the sound of that. What does that actually mean in practice?
Basically, it means that any content generated by AI needs to be clearly labeled as such. So if you're reading something online or in a book,
Or even listening to something like a podcast.
exactly, you'll know right away if it was created by a human or by a machine.
That's a good thing, right? I mean, we should know who or what is creating the content we're consuming.
Absolutely. And there's another big piece to this transparency puzzle: copyrighted data. A lot of these generative AI systems, they learn by analyzing huge amounts of data.
I mean, they need to be fed information somehow, right?
Exactly. But some of that data, well, it might be protected by copyright. So the question is, how do you use that data to train AI without stepping on anyone's toes?
Yeah, that's a tricky one. So how does the AI Act handle that?
Well, the EU is taking a pretty straightforward approach. They're requiring companies to publish summaries of the copyrighted data that's being used to train their AI models.
So basically, they have to be upfront about where they're getting their information from.
Right. It's about transparency and making sure that intellectual property rights are respected.
Makes sense to me. So it sounds like the EU is trying to walk this fine line. They want to allow this technology to grow and develop,
Absolutely.
but they also want to make sure it's being used responsibly, ethically, and transparently.
That's the sweet spot they're aiming for.
Finding that balance, that's the key, isn't it?
It is. And it's not an easy task, but it's one that's essential for the future of AI and really for the future of all of us.
No pressure, EU.
No pressure at all.
But seriously, this is a huge undertaking, and it's fascinating to see how they're tackling it. And we're just scratching the surface here, folks.
Oh, yeah, we've got a lot more to unpack.
We do. So stick with us as we delve deeper into the EU's AI Act and what it means for the future of technology, society, and, well, pretty much everything.
It's going to be a wild ride.
Hold on tight.
Yeah, finding that balance is what it's all about. It's not just about restrictions,
Right.
The AI Act, it also wants to support AI innovation and startups here in Europe.
Okay, so it's not all doom and gloom. They're not trying to stifle progress.
Not at all. They've recognized that we need to foster a vibrant AI ecosystem right here in the EU.
So how do they actually do that? How does the Act help with innovation?
One of the key ways is through these things called regulatory sandboxes.
Sandboxes. Okay, that sounds interesting. What are those exactly?
Think of them as like controlled testing environments
Okay.
where companies can experiment with their AI systems before they're actually released to the public.
So it's like a safe space for them to try things out without, worrying about breaking any rules.
Yeah, exactly. It gives them a chance to, refine their technology, make sure it meets all the requirements before they go live.
I can see how that would be really helpful, especially for smaller startups, you know?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Startups, they might not have the resources to navigate all those complex regulations right away.
Right, right.
So these sandboxes, they give them a chance to, get things right before they launch.
It's like a training ground.
Yeah, a training ground, but with, guardrails. It's about encouraging innovation while also making sure that everything is done safely and ethically.
So it's that balance again, that sweet spot.
Exactly. Now, all that being said, it's important to remember that not everyone's completely on board with every single part of the AI Act.
Right, right. I mean, it's a big, complex piece of legislation. There are bound to be some different opinions out there.
Yeah, and that's a good thing. It's good to have these discussions and debates.
So, what are some of the concerns people are raising? What are the critics saying?
Well, one of the main criticisms is that the regulations might be too strict.
Okay. I can see how some people might worry about that.
Yeah, they're worried that all these rules and requirements, they could stifle innovation.
Right. If it's too hard or too expensive for companies to comply, they might just give up.
Exactly. And there's also the concern about, the compliance burden, especially for smaller companies.
Yeah, they don't have the same resources as the big tech giants.
Right. It can be tough for them to keep up with all these regulations.
So it's a valid concern, this balancing act between protecting people and also fostering innovation.
Absolutely. It's tricky, but it's crucial to get it right.
No easy answers here.
No easy answers. And there's another point of view out there, too. Some critics, they argue that the AI Act, it focuses too much on mitigating the risks of AI
Okay.
and that it doesn't do enough to, promote its potential benefits.
So it's a bit of a glass half empty versus glass half full kind of thing.
Yeah, you could say that. Some people are more optimistic about AI and its potential to solve problems, to improve our lives.
And others are more focused on the potential dangers.
Right, the potential for things to go wrong. And it's important to have both of those perspectives in the
Yeah,
conversation.
see the whole picture.
Exactly. And as AI keeps evolving, we're going to have to keep reevaluating how we regulate it, how we balance the risks and the benefits.
It's an ongoing process, not a one and done kind of thing.
Definitely not. And that's what makes it so fascinating, right? We're at this crossroads with AI. And the decisions we make now, they're going to shape the future.
It's exciting and a little bit scary at the same time.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, so we've talked about all this big picture stuff.
The ethics, the regulations, the different viewpoints.
Right.
But let's bring it back down to earth for a moment.
Okay.
What does all this mean for everyday people? For me, for you, for our listeners?
That's the most important question, right? Well, one key takeaway is that, at least here in the EU, you're going to have a lot more transparency and control over how AI is used in your life.
Okay, I like the sound of that. More control.
Yeah. So, for example, if a company is using AI to make decisions that affect you, like in healthcare or finance,
Right, those are big ones.
yeah, you have the right to know that they're using AI, and you even have the right to challenge those decisions.
So it's not just a black box anymore. There's some accountability built in.
Exactly. And, as consumers, you can be more confident that the AI-powered products and services you're using, they've met these high safety and ethical standards.
Because of the AI Act.
That's right. And beyond the individual level, the AI Act, it could really shape the global AI landscape.
Wow, so the EU is kind of leading the way here.
They are. They're being very proactive and comprehensive, and that's getting a lot of attention internationally.
Other countries are watching and taking notes.
Yeah, and that's a good thing. It's an opportunity to create, a global framework for ethical AI development.
So the EU is setting the bar.
They are. And it's an ambitious bar, but it's one that I think we need to reach.
This has been a really insightful deep dive, but before we move on, let's do a quick recap.
Okay, good idea.
What are the most important things you want people to remember about the EU's AI Act?
First and foremost, remember, this is a landmark achievement in AI regulation. It's the first time any country or region has attempted to create such a comprehensive framework for AI.
It's a big deal.
It is a big deal. Second, it's important to understand that the AI Act, it uses this risk-based approach.
Right, we talked about that.
Yeah, so it's focused on mitigating the potential harms of certain types of AI while also making sure that we can still reap the benefits.
So it's not about banning all AI, it's about being smart and targeted in how we regulate it.
Exactly. And finally, the AI Act, it really puts a strong emphasis on transparency, accountability, and human oversight.
Those are the key principles.
They are. The goal is to ensure that AI systems are always used ethically and responsibly, with human well-being at the forefront.
Sounds like the EU is really committed to shaping an AI future that benefits all of humanity.
That's the vision. But it's an ongoing process. This isn't the end of the story.
Right. As AI evolves, we're going to have to keep adapting and refining our approach.
Absolutely. This deep dive has definitely given me a lot to think about.
Me too. It's a lot to take in. After a quick break, we'll come back and explore how our listeners can actually get involved in shaping the future of AI.
I'm looking forward to that.
It's a lot to wrap your head around, isn't it? All this talk about AI and regulations and the future.
It can feel a bit overwhelming. Yeah.
It can, but I think it's important to remember, that we're not just passive observers in all of this.
Oh, absolutely not.
We're not just along for the ride. We have a voice, and we can actually make a difference.
We absolutely can. And in fact, the AI Act itself, it really encourages public participation and feedback.
They want to hear from us.
They do. The EU, they want to hear from citizens, from experts, from organizations about their concerns, their ideas, their hopes for the future of AI.
So it's not just a set of rules handed down from on high?
No, it's an invitation to join a bigger conversation.
I like that. So let's say someone's listening to this right now and they're thinking, okay, this AI Act, it's a big deal, but what can I actually do about it? What advice would you give them?
Well, first and foremost, get informed. Read about the AI Act, explore the resources that are available online, follow the discussions that are happening.
Then do your homework.
Exactly. There are so many articles, videos, podcasts even, that can help you really understand the nuances of this legislation because it is complex.
Okay, so step one is to arm yourself with knowledge.
Yes, exactly. And then once you have a good understanding of the issues, that's when you can start to really engage in the conversation.
Share your thoughts?
Yeah, share your thoughts. Talk about it on social media, write to your elected officials, join organizations that are, advocating for responsible AI development.
Don't underestimate the power of making your voice heard.
Every voice matters. And don't forget about the power of your choices as a consumer, too.
Oh, right. We can vote with our wallets.
Exactly. You can support companies that are, developing and using AI ethically and responsibly.
Putting your money where your mouth is.
Yeah, basically. And finally, I would say, remember that this is an ongoing process.
Learning about AI.
Learning about AI, staying informed. This field is evolving so quickly, so stay curious, stay engaged, and keep asking questions.
It's a marathon, not a sprint.
Well said. And, if we think about this in the bigger picture, the AI Act, it's not just about regulating technology.
It's about something more.
It is. It's about shaping our collective future. It's about deciding what kind of world we want to live in.
The world we're building.
Exactly. Do we want a world where AI serves humanity or one where humanity serves AI?
That's a pretty profound question.
It is. And it reminds us that we're not just dealing with, algorithms and data here.
It's about something deeper.
It's about our values, our aspirations, our shared responsibility for the future.
Wow. Well, as we wrap up this deep dive into the EU's AI Act, I want to leave our listeners with one final thought.
Okay.
The Act is a huge step. It's a blueprint for a future where AI is developed and used ethically, responsibly, and with a focus on human well-being.
I agree.
But the real work, it starts now. It's up to all of us to make sure this vision becomes a reality.
We all have a role to play.
We do. So go out there, get informed, get engaged, and let's build an AI future that we can all be proud of. And that's a wrap for this deep dive. Until next time, keep diving deep, stay curious, and remember, the future of AI is in our hands.